At a big family dinner, my relatives walked out of a fancy Chicago restaurant, left me sitting there with my 2 kids, and stuck me with a $360 bill for food I never even saw. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I documented. A week later, my story was all over local media. My family's jobs were on the line, and they were begging me to stop embarrassing them. They invited me to a family gathering. I showed up with my kids, actually in a good mood for once. We hadn't all been in the same place in forever. We walked into Romano's, one of those Italian places downtown where the waiters carry wine that costs more than my car payment. Dark wood, low lights, starched shirts. The kind of place I usually walk past, not into. Parking in downtown Chicago is its own circle of hell. I'd already spent 15 minutes circling, finally gave up, and paid for a spot in a side street. By the time we reached the restaurant, my comfortable heels felt like a design flaw. The hostess looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine. "Good evening. Welcome to Romano's. Do you have a reservation?" "Yes," I said. "Under Diane Harper." My mom's name. She was supposedly the one who organized everything, so I used it. The hostess checked her tablet, smiled, and said, "Right this way." She led us all the way to the back, to a big table in the corner, clearly set for a large party. White tablecloth, multiple glasses at each place setting, cloth napkins folded into little swans, 15 seats, and that's where it started. We came up to the table and my whole family was already there, or rather, had been there, because the moment they saw me, they all stood up. Not just stood, grabbed coats, bags, gathered their stuff like there was a fire drill, and they were smirking. "My brother Mike saw me," elbowed Dylan. They both grinned like they'd just remembered a private joke the rest of us were too dumb to get. My mom, Diane, moved first. She rushed over, smile stretched tight like it had been stapled on. "Nicole, you made it. Great. Just great." "Mom, what's going on?" I asked. "Why is everyone leaving? We just got here." She latched onto my arm with surprising strength and steered me toward the head of the table. "Oh, honey, just sit down. Everything's fine. Something came up, but everyone will be right back. Sit here with the kids." I tried to look around her. Jenna, my sister, was putting on her coat, very clearly saw me, and just turned away. Started talking to our cousin Allison like they were at a cocktail party. They both kept glancing at me and then pretending they weren't. "Mom, seriously," I pushed. "What is happening? Did something happen to Dad? Is someone sick?" "It's all fine," she said quickly, practically shoving me into the chair at the head of the table. "Just sit. Order the kids something to drink. Everyone will be back soon, I promise." Mia tugged my sleeve. "Mom, where is everybody going?" I watched my whole family file past us in a little procession, heading for the door. My dad, George, gave me a half wave. Not really a goodbye. More like, "Yes, I do see that you exist." My brothers didn't look at me at all. "I don't know, baby," I told Mia, though my stomach was already turning. Mom patted my shoulder. "Just stay put, okay? I need to check something. Don't go anywhere." And then she was gone, just like the rest of them. So there I was, sitting at a huge table in a fancy restaurant with Mia and Owen. 15 place settings, 3 people. Through the big windows at the front, I could see my family clumping up on the sidewalk, talking, laughing. Every now and then someone would glance back inside. I swear I could see them laughing at me. A waiter came over, early 20s, that bright customer service cheerfulness glued onto his face. "Good evening. Can I get you something to drink?" I looked at my kids, who were staring out the window, confused. "Could you give us a few minutes? We're waiting for the rest of our party." "Of course," he said, but he hesitated. "Sorry, ma'am. Are you sure they're coming back? I just saw a big group leave a few minutes ago." My heart dropped. "They'll be back," I said. I didn't believe myself. 15 minutes went by, then 20. The cluster of Harpers outside broke apart. People drifted away in different directions. No sign of my mother. Mia started fidgeting, coloring the kids' menu. Owen kept asking when everyone was coming back. I kept feeding him excuses because I genuinely had no idea what this was. Then the same waiter came back. This time he looked uncomfortable. Really uncomfortable. He was holding a leather check presenter. "I'm really sorry about this," he said quietly, glancing around so the surrounding tables wouldn't hear. "I hate to bother you, but the older woman who was sitting here earlier, gray hair, glasses, your mother?" "Yes," I said. "She paid for her group's check and left, but asked me to bring this to you." He set the folder down in front of me. My hands were shaking when I opened it. Inside was a bill, not a paid receipt, a live check. $360 and change. I stared at the total. My brain refused to compute. "Is this some kind of mistake?" I asked. The waiter winced. "She said you'd be covering your portion of the table," he said. "They ordered quite a bit. Appetizers, mains, desserts, several bottles of wine." That's when the puzzle pieces snapped together. The smirks as they stood up. No one meeting my eyes. My mom forcing me to sit and stay put. They had planned this. My own family had planned to stick me with the bill. I dug my phone out with trembling hands. Mom, straight to voicemail. Dad, voicemail. Mike, Dylan, Aunt Linda. Nothing. Finally, Jenna picked up. "Hey, Nick," she said, fake surprised. I could hear voices, laughter, clinking glasses in the background. "How was dinner?" "Jenna, what is going on?" I asked. No sugarcoating left. "Where is everybody? Why am I sitting here with a check for $360? She burst out laughing. Not an oops misunderstanding laugh. An ugly, full-body laugh. "Thanks for the treat, sis," she choked out. "By the way, that whole thing, totally my idea." The noise behind her got louder. Somebody howled. "We figured it was time you contributed something to the family for once," she went on. "Instead of always hanging off everyone's neck." More laughter. I could make out my brothers' voices. Maybe my parents'. Aunt Linda's. "You can't seriously be doing this," I said, even though clearly they were. "Oh, come on," Jenna said. "Don't be so dramatic. Dinner was amazing, by the way. The Alaskan king crab? Incredible. And Mom ordered that Chianti you're always drooling over on the wine list but can't justify buying." Someone in the background, sounded like Mike, yelled, "Tell her the desserts were awesome too." I hung up. I sat there in that very nice chair at that very nice table, staring at my very not nice reality. 2 kids, 1 check. No money. I had maybe $20 left on my card. My overdraft was almost maxed. I'd blown my last spare cash on making sure my kids looked like they belonged in this place. New clothes from Target's sale rack, nothing fancy, just clean and coordinated. "Mom," Mia whispered, "are we in trouble?" Something inside me didn't explode. It froze. My family thought my financial stress was funny. They thought humiliating me in front of my kids was entertainment. They thought I would swallow it because that's just family. They were wrong. I smiled at the waiter. "Could I have 1 more minute?" I asked. "And could you please ask your manager to come over?" The manager was a woman in her 40s with cool, sharp eyes and a name tag that said Violet Grant. I laid it all out, calmly, step by step. How my family had invited me to this big dinner, knew exactly how tight money was, had clearly eaten a small mountain of food while I was circling for parking, then bailed and left me to pay. Violet listened without interrupting. "I'm so sorry this happened to you," she said finally. Unfortunately, the woman who booked the table was very clear that you'd be paying this portion of the check. I get that, I said. But as you can see, I have 2 kids here, and we weren't part of that feast. I didn't order any of this. I can't pay for it. Is there anything we can do? She looked at Mia and Owen, at their too careful posture, at Owen gripping his kids' menu so hard it was starting to tear. Her face softened. Give me a few minutes, she said. We'll figure something out. While she was gone, I made 3 calls. Not to my family, to my contacts. Amy, my friend who runs a small marketing agency. Liz, a reporter at a local news site. Regina, my cousin from my dad's side, who's never liked my mom's side and runs a pretty popular blog. By the time Violet came back, the numb panic had turned into something else. A plan. We're closing out your check, Violet said. You won't be responsible for this bill. What your family did is unacceptable, and we're not going to help them punish you for it. I would, however, appreciate if you let them know they're not welcome here again until they make this right. I thanked her about 10 times, collected my kids, walked back to the car, but I wasn't going home yet. I got Mia and Owen settled with a movie on my phone, came back inside, and asked Violet for a copy of the itemized bill. Every dish, every bottle of wine, the total they'd tried to dump on me. When I saw the full printout, my eyebrows nearly hit my hairline. Multiple appetizers, premium steaks, crab, cocktails, several bottles of wine, fancy desserts. Total for their group, a little over $700. They'd wanted me to cover half. By the time we finally got home, I wasn't shaking anymore. I was ready. My name is Nicole. I'm 34, divorced, and raising 2 kids. Mia is 8, Owen is 10. I work as a nurse and pick up extra shifts whenever I can. Every dollar has an assignment before it even hits my account. Rent, groceries, gas, Mia's community center dance class, Owen's City League soccer fees. It's not a tragic story, it's just tight. And my family knows all of this. They've watched me calculate whether I can afford a coffee. They've heard me say no to trips, to outings, to just split the bill, it's fine. Because I literally can't. 2 years ago, I divorced my ex, Jason. Money got even tighter. I stayed in Chicago because my job and kids' school are here, not because it's cheap. You'd think that would make my family more careful, more gentle. You'd be wrong. When Jenna called 3 weeks before the dinner, she was practically vibrating through the phone. Nick, we're doing a big family thing at Romano's, she said. Everyone's going to be there. We haven't gotten together properly in forever. Mom's going crazy. She wants all of us. Instant knot in my stomach. Jen, I can't afford Romano's right now, I said. I've got rent, utilities, the kids' stuff. I'm already juggling. Oh my God, relax. She cut in, using that tone she always uses when I talk about money. The one that translates to, here she goes again. It's just a family dinner. We'll figure it out. Just bring the kids. Mom's treating everyone anyway. That should have been the first alarm. My mother is many things. Generous with expensive restaurants is not one of them. She still tracks grocery store sales like it's her religion and buys whatever has the biggest discount sticker. But I was lonely. I hadn't had a real, relaxed family evening in months. So I shoved my instincts into a box, locked it, and shoved it under the mental bed. Second alarm? The part where Jenna made a big deal out of everyone coming. My parents, my brothers, Michael and Dylan, with their wives and kids, Aunt Linda and Uncle Bob, Cousin Allison, who usually skips family gatherings because of work. Like an idiot, I got excited. I even spent the last of my tiny savings on nicer clothes for the kids. Nothing boutique, sale rack at Target, but clean, coordinated, new. I wanted them to show up looking like they belonged there, not like the poor relatives in hand-me-downs. The day of the dinner, I took extra time getting ready. Hair done, makeup on, Mia in a pink dress with matching flats, Owen in a button-down and slacks. We looked like a normal family going to a normal dinner. My bank account strongly disagreed. And you know the rest of part 1. The ambush, the check, the phone call. Thanks for the treat, sis. That's the thing I couldn't get over later. Not just the money, although $360 might as well have been $3,000 that night. It's that they looked at my life, the extra shifts, the budgeting, the kids, and said, let's make a joke out of that. We got home. The kids went to their room. My hands went straight to my laptop. I wrote everything down, every detail, how they'd invited me, the parking nightmare, the timing, the table, the way they'd walked out in a group smirking, the waiter, the bill, Jenna's little performance on the phone. I attached photos, the check, screenshots of Jenna's messages inviting me with the date and time, a picture of Mia and Owen all dressed up before we left. Then I titled the post, My Family's Prank, how they tried to stick me with a $360 restaurant bill. First, I posted it on my own Facebook page. Amy, my marketing friend, shared it in a couple of large neighborhood groups her agency manages. Liz sent it to her editor as a possible human interest story about financial abuse inside families. Regina posted it on her blog with a headline along the lines of, Chicago family's cruel prank backfires in the worst way. And I still didn't stop. I wrote a clear, unemotional summary of events and emailed it, with the check and screenshots attached to my relatives' employers. Mike works in corporate at an insurance company that loves to preach about family values in their ads. Dylan works at the district office for the public school system. Jenna works in a call center for a regional bank. I didn't embellish. I didn't call anyone names. I just described what happened and attached proof. Then I waited. The first response came from Regina. Nick, this thing is blowing up, she said when she called about 6 hours later. It's already been shared over 300 times, and people are furious at your family. You've got a lot of strangers on your side. The second response came from Jenna. What did you do? She screamed into the phone. No greeting, just straight to maximum volume. My manager just dragged me into her office. Customers are calling the bank and asking why we employ someone who treats her own sister like that. I told the truth, I said. Is there anything in that post that isn't accurate? You're ruining our reputation over a stupid joke. No, I said. You ruined your own reputation. I just turned the lights on. She hung up. The next 3 days, my phone was a war zone. Mom called, sobbing, begging me to delete everything. Dad called, furious, talking about family loyalty and washing our dirty laundry in public. Mike told me his boss had made a comment about how personal conduct can affect how clients see our company. But the most surprising call was from Aunt Linda. Nick, sweetheart, she said, sounding wrecked. I had no idea Jenna planned any of this. I thought it was just a regular family dinner. Then she told us we had to leave right away because the bill was taken care of. I didn't know she meant you. You all walked past me, I said. You saw me at the table with the kids, and you still left. I know, she said, and I am so ashamed. Jenna said it was some kind of surprise for you, that you'd understand later. She told us you knew. Turns out Jenna had customized the story for each audience. To my parents, she'd said I offered to pay the check as my contribution to the celebration. To my brothers, she'd said I wanted everyone to leave so I could have some time alone with the kids at the restaurant. To Aunt Linda and Uncle Bob, she'd claimed it was my idea to prove I could handle adult responsibilities. Cute. Meanwhile, online, the story was outrunning all of us. A couple of local TV stations picked it up as a segment about toxic family dynamics and financial abuse. A morning radio host called it the meanest family prank of the year, Romanos posted a statement on their social media saying they'd closed my check because what happened violated their values as a family restaurant. That's when things moved from viral drama to actual consequences. Amy's contacts shared the story in business circles. It sparked discussions about how employees treat their families and what that says about their ethics. A few small business owners publicly commented that they'd be horrified if their staff pulled something like that. The second day after my post, I got a call from a woman named Margaret Taylor. "Nicole, this is Margaret from Coffee and the City on Chicago 24, she said. "We read your story and would love to have you on the show to talk about financial pressure on single parents and setting boundaries with family. Our viewers have been calling in with similar situations." I wanted to say no. The idea of talking about my life on TV to a city full of strangers sounded like a nightmare. Mia changed my mind. "Mom, maybe if people hear you, other moms won't feel so alone," she said. 8 years old, somehow already better at perspective than half my relatives. So I agreed. The interview was scheduled for the following Thursday. I took an unpaid day off. Couldn't really afford it, but there wasn't another option. All week, I prepared. Amy helped me rehearse answers. Liz coached me on how to sit, where to look, what to do with my hands so I didn't look like a malfunctioning robot. The morning of the show, my legs were jelly walking into the studio. Margaret turned out to be warm and calm, the kind of person who makes you feel like you're at a coffee shop, not under studio lights. "Just talk like you're telling a friend," she said. The interview lasted about 12 minutes. 12 minutes that shifted everything. She asked thoughtful questions about money stress, about being a single parent, about what it feels like when the people who should protect you decide you're the punchline. Then she asked what I'd learned. I realized you can love your family and still refuse to swallow disrespect from them, I said. "My kids watch what I do. I want them to see that you don't pretend everything is fine when someone hurts you just because they share your DNA." The phone lines at the studio lit up. Margaret told me later they got over 200 calls and messages. My phone lit up too, just in a very different tone. Distant relatives who hadn't contacted me in years suddenly remembered my number, and they were furious. My dad's cousin, Aunt Gail, called me full name serious. "Nicole Harper," she said, like I was 11 and had broken her vase. "What do you think you're doing? Shaming your family in front of the whole country? Your grandmother would be horrified." They tried to leave me with a $360 bill I couldn't pay, I said. They humiliated me in front of my kids for fun. What exactly should I have done differently? "Family issues are handled in the family," she snapped. "You don't go on television every time your feelings get hurt. Now everyone is talking about us, and none of it is flattering." Variations of that conversation replayed several times with different relatives. The family split into camps. One half thought Jenna and the others had crossed a line you can't uncross. The other half thought my going public was worse than what they did. Regina called again at one point. "Just a heads up," she said. "Some of them are trying to coordinate a 'she made it all up' campaign. Letters to editors, angry comments, the works." "Let them," I said. "I've got every receipt." Meanwhile, messages from strangers poured in. A single mom from Portland wrote, "Your story gave me the backbone to tell my sister I can't drop $2,500 on her destination wedding just to be a bridesmaid. That money is my kids' food and rent. Thank you." A divorced dad from Houston messaged, "My ex's family constantly invites me to expensive events and then acts like I'm the bad guy for saying no. Hearing your story helped me realize I'm allowed to set limits and still be a good father." By the end of the week, the fallout had reached my relatives' workplaces. Jenna got moved to a back office role. Technically, not fired. Practically, career dead. Mike got quietly passed over for a promotion he'd been chasing for 2 years. Dylan's principal pulled him in for a conversation after parents emailed about the story. A month later, Violet from Romano's called. "Nicole, your family came back in," she said. "They paid the original bill and left an envelope for you." Inside, $700 in cash and a note from my mother with one word. "Sorry." No long explanation, no apology tour, just money and a single word. Around the same time, my dad made his move. In his own sideways way. Through a friend of a friend, he helped get me an interview at a private clinic looking for a senior nurse. The pay was about 1.5 times what I'd been making. He sent the contact info through Mike. He did not call me himself. 3 months later, Jenna did get fired. She called me in the middle of the night. I could hear the slur in her voice. "Are you happy now?" she asked. "I lost my job. Because of your little tantrum." "Because of your prank," I corrected, and hung up. Life slowly resettled. I still see my brothers sometimes. Kids' birthday parties, school events. We do the awkward small talk thing. Weather, work, nothing deeper. Mike occasionally sends money for the kids, with vague notes in the transfers. Dylan runs an after-school program and let Mia join his group. All communication is through her, not between us. My mom calls maybe once a month. "How are the kids?" "They're okay." "Maybe you can come over for Christmas?" "We already have plans." I see. The internet did what it always does. Moved on. Chicago is big. Everyone's got their own disaster. For a couple of weeks, strangers would stop me once in a while. "Hey, are you that woman from the restaurant story?" I'd nod, say yeah, and keep walking. About 6 months later, I ran into Jenna at the grocery store. She'd lost weight and looked older in that tired way you can't fix with makeup. Her cart was filled with the cheapest store brands. "Hey," she muttered. "Hey, I'm working at a call center now," she said. "For pennies." "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it, in a detached way. I started to turn my cart away when she called after me. "You destroyed this family!" I didn't turn back. The other day, Mia asked, "Mom, why don't we go to Grandma's house anymore?" "Because Grandma made a really bad choice," I said. "She did technically apologize, but words don't fix everything when you've broken trust." Mia thought about that, then nodded. "I get it," she said. "There is no Harper family anymore. There are just people with the same last name drifting around Chicago, sometimes crossing paths, pretending not to see each other. Do I ever feel a twinge of regret? Sure. When I see big families at the park, laughing, passing around snacks, taking group photos. When I see grandparents sincerely enjoying their grandkids. Then I remember that table at Romano's, my kids' scared eyes, that check for $360 that I had no way to pay, and I don't regret a thing. Some bridges, you don't just set on fire. You blow them up so there isn't even a place to start rebuilding. Did I go overboard? Or did I just finally draw a line nobody expected me to draw? Tell me what you think in the comments. And if you like stories about boundaries, consequences, and a little bit of icy justice, you can always subscribe and turn on notifications for more. My in-laws forced my 9-year-old daughter to take the blame for stealing, knowing she didn't do it. "You have to protect your cousin," they said. "It's what family does." She got suspended. I didn't shout. I acted. 2 hours later, their lives started to fall apart. If you'd told me that a normal Wednesday morning would end with my 9-year-old daughter sitting across from a police officer, clutching a crumpled confession in her shaking hands, I would have laughed. The dry, humorless kind you give right before the world tilts. But that's exactly how it happened. It started with laundry. Just laundry. A quiet morning, a half-finished cup of coffee, and the feeling, for once, that the day might be manageable. Then my phone buzzed. Missed call from the school. Then another. And another. By the time I finally heard the ringtone, I had shampoo in my hair. That's the only reason I didn't pick up sooner. Shampoo. Not disaster. Not crisis. Shampoo. I tapped the screen with wet fingers. "Ms. Jacobs?" the receptionist said, voice tight. "You need to come to the school. Immediately." "What happened? Is Chloe okay?" I can't discuss details on the phone, but you need to come now." Every mother knows that tone. The one that hits you right under the ribs. I rinsed, threw on clothes that didn't match, and drove faster than I legally should have. I told myself everything was fine. Kids fall, kids get sick, kids call home, kids don't confess to crimes. I didn't realize how wrong I was until I pulled into the school driveway and saw the police car. My stomach dropped so fast I felt dizzy. Inside, the hallways were too loud and too quiet at once. A teacher guided me toward the principal's office, but her eyes kept flicking away from me. That pitying, uncomfortable look people give when they know something you don't. The door opened, and there was Chloe, my daughter, my baby, sitting rigid in a chair, hands balled into fists in her lap, her little sneakers swinging above the floor. Her face was pale, not sick pale, scared pale. Beside her sat Ms. Park, her teacher, and beside Ms. Park stood a uniformed police officer. I felt the world tilt again. The principal cleared her throat. "Ms. Jacobs, please sit." What's happening?" She gestured to the table. A school-issued iPad lay there, Ms. Park's name sticker on the back. I recognized it instantly. I'd seen her carrying it at conferences. "This iPad went missing yesterday," the principal said gently. "We found it in your daughter's possession this morning." I blinked. That sentence genuinely didn't compute. "My daughter?" I asked, like maybe the word daughter suddenly meant something else. The officer nodded. "She admitted she took it." Ms. Park looked heartbroken. Not angry. Heartbroken. "We asked Chloe to write down what happened," the principal said softly. "This is her statement." She slid a page toward me. It was Chloe's handwriting, her neat little block letters, words she had clearly practiced. I took the iPad. I wanted to borrow it. I didn't mean to cause trouble. My throat closed. I knelt in front of her. "Chloe, sweetie, did you really take it?" She froze, eyes wide, looking from Ms. Park to the officer to the principal, then back to me, and she whispered, barely audible, "Yes, I stole it." The script. The scripted line she'd been told to say, but I didn't know that yet. Not then. At that moment, all I felt was disbelief so sharp it burned. The principal continued explaining, something about district policy, something about data access, something about mandatory reports. But I barely heard a word. My ears buzzed. My heart thudded. My hands shook. Then the officer said, "We're not charging her. She's 9. But we do need a formal report, and the school is issuing a suspension." Suspension. My daughter. Suspended. I nodded because I didn't know what else to do. What do you do when the ground you're standing on disappears? A few minutes later, Chloe and I were walking out of the office. She held my hand like it was the only solid thing left in the world. She didn't speak. I didn't either. Not until I buckled her into the car and sat in the driver's seat, breathing like someone had punched me. "Honey," I said softly, "please tell me what happened. The truth. Just between us." She didn't answer at first. Then her chin trembled, and the dam broke. "It wasn't me," she sobbed. "I didn't take it. I didn't. It was Asher." Asher. Her 9-year-old cousin. I froze. She continued through hiccuping breaths. He took it from Ms. Park's desk and brought it home. He thought it was funny. He showed it to Grandma and Grandpa, and they got so mad. They said he couldn't get in trouble because he's smart and special and he has opportunities. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. And they said I had to say I did it instead. My heart cracked clean down the middle. They told me I had to take the blame, she whispered. They said it was what family does, that I'm stronger, that Asher would get in big trouble and lose everything, and Grandma said, she swallowed. She said no one would love me if I blamed my cousin. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my fingers hurt. And I wasn't supposed to tell you, she added, voice trembling. She said you'd be mad at me. Mad at you? I had to look away for a second because I genuinely felt like the universe was splitting in half. I took out my phone. My hands were shaking. But I dialed anyway. Patricia answered on the third ring, syrupy sweet. Lauren, did Chloe get home all right? I didn't bother with pleasantries. What did you do to my daughter? Oh, don't start, she sighed. She's being dramatic. It was a little favor. Asher can't afford something like this on his record. She was suspended. The police questioned her. Oh, stop, she snapped. She's a child. Nothing will happen. She confessed to a crime she didn't commit. She helped her cousin, Patricia said, voice sugary and smug. You should be proud she understands family loyalty. I hung up. Not slammed, not screamed. Just pressed the button, quietly, coldly. That was the moment everything inside me shifted. Something clean, sharp, and final. They thought they could sacrifice my daughter to save their golden child. They had no idea what they'd just started. If you'd met Derek when I met Derek, you would have understood how I ended up here. He was the kind of man who could say, "Good morning," and make it sound like a compliment. Tall, tan, charming, absolutely useless. Though it took me years to realize that last part. Back then, I mistook charisma for depth. I mistook attention for love. I mistook a handsome smile for stability. And then I got pregnant. That was when the charm evaporated and real life walked in uninvited. Suddenly, Derek still wanted to party, still wanted late nights, still wanted freedom, still wanted to flirt with anything that had eyelashes, but be a partner, a father, help me carry groceries, hold a crying newborn at 3 a.m. Please. I remember standing in the kitchen one night, holding Chloe in one arm and a bottle of formula in the other, while Derek walked out the front door with cologne still hanging in the air behind him. He kissed my cheek and said, "Don't wait up," as if I had the option. When Chloe was 2, I found photos on his phone, blurry selfies with girls whose names I didn't want to know and whose outfits made me remember the body I used to have. He didn't admit it, didn't deny it, just shrugged like fidelity was old-fashioned. By the time Chloe turned 4, I filed for divorce. And honestly, I thought the worst was over. I thought naively that Derek would barely fight me. He was never home. He didn't even pretend to know Chloe's bedtime routine. He couldn't remember her pediatrician's name. So you can imagine my shock when he fought tooth and nail for custody. His lawyer used words like fatherly devotion and shared responsibility, and I sat there wondering if I'd entered an alternate universe. But he won. 2 nights a week. 48 hours where Chloe was supposed to spend quality time with her father, and for 5 seconds I let myself hope. I thought maybe he'd grown up. Maybe losing us had shaken him awake. Wrong. The first Thursday that was his, he texted, "Running late. Drop her at my parents'." That became the routine. Every dad night was really a grandparent night because Derek's schedule was always crazy. Crazy being code for girls in bars and anything except his child. But I didn't drag him back to court. I wanted to believe Chloe having grandparents was better than nothing. I wanted calm, not another custody war. Stupid, in hindsight. Around the same time, Derek's sister Kendra moved back to town with her son Asher. Chloe's age, Chloe's class, Chloe's opposite in every way. Kendra moved in with Patricia and Howard, my ex-in-laws. And once Asher arrived, the house became his kingdom. He wasn't just the favorite. He was the son, and everyone else was required to orbit him. Age 6. That's how old they were when the imbalance became too obvious to ignore. Asher got everything. The best snacks, the best toys, the expensive holiday pajamas, the special outings, the trips, the praise. Chloe got, well, whatever was left. Hand-me-down affection, second-hand smiles, the "we love you too" sort of energy. And the worst part? I kept telling myself I was imagining it. He lives there full-time, I said. They're just closer to him, I said. Maybe I'm being sensitive, I said. I rationalized the hell out of that dysfunction because I didn't want to believe a family could love one child and tolerate the other. But then came the moment I should have seen as a warning sign. During the divorce, I'd asked Derek for permission to move back to my hometown, where my parents lived, where I had support, where Chloe would have stability and love. I wasn't trying to punish him. I wasn't trying to run away. I just needed help, and my help was 300 miles away. He refused instantly, not because he cared about Chloe, not because he planned to be a better dad. He refused because it was the one form of control he had left. Punishing me was more important than supporting her. That should have told me everything. But trauma makes you excuse bad behavior in beautifully creative ways. For years, I ignored the tightness in my daughter's voice when she talked about Grandma Patricia. I ignored the way she shrank at family gatherings when Asher received his latest round of applause. I ignored the way she lingered near me at drop-off, like she wanted to say something but didn't know how. I ignored it all because admitting the truth meant facing the fact that Derek's family, the people I depended on for those court-ordered custody days, did not love my daughter the way they loved Asher. And then came the iPad. The stolen iPad. The forced confession. The suspension. The police. The shaking hands. The whispered, "No one will love me if I blame my cousin." The moment every suppressed doubt snapped into focus. Everything I tried to rationalize suddenly fit together with sickening clarity. They hadn't just favored Asher. They had always favored him. They had always seen my daughter as secondary. They had always expected her to be grateful for scraps. They had always believed protecting Asher's future mattered more than protecting her childhood. And the worst part? They'd been training her, slowly, quietly, subtly, to believe it too. All those years of be a big girl, all those years of Asher's sensitive, all those years of don't make a fuss, all those years of handing him the first slice of cake and telling her to share, all those years of brushing off her hurt with, he didn't mean it. They'd been teaching her her place. And when the iPad incident came, she already knew the role she was expected to play. The scapegoat, the sacrifice, the child they could afford to lose. I used to think the worst thing in life was being married to Derek. I was wrong. The worst thing is realizing the people you trusted with your child, the people you hoped would love her, guide her, protect her, were willing to ruin her life to save someone else's. And in that moment, sitting in my car with my daughter sobbing into her hands, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity, not rage, not confusion, not heartbreak. Clarity. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a deliberate choice, and I knew exactly what I had to do next. They thought I would swallow it. They thought Chloe would stay silent. They thought wrong. If anyone had told me that the worst part wouldn't be the police officer, or the suspension, or even the written confession, it would be the car ride home afterward, I would have laughed. Not a happy laugh, a brittle one, the kind you give when you're trying not to shatter. Chloe cried herself quiet in the back seat. Not asleep. Quiet. Which is worse. When we got home, she clung to me like she was afraid someone would rip her away. And honestly, I felt the same. I made hot chocolate. She didn't drink it. I sat on the couch. She curled into my side, shaking. People talk about maternal instinct like it's soft and warm. Mine felt like broken glass. "Sweetheart," I whispered, "you're safe now. You did nothing wrong." She nodded, but her eyes were far away. The way kids look when they're trying to understand something that shouldn't exist in their world. They said I was helping," she whispered, "and that Asher would lose everything if I didn't." I closed my eyes. Once. Slowly. Because if I didn't, I was going to break something. "And they said," she swallowed, "they said you'd be disappointed in me if I told you." There it was. The knife. The idea that she thought I'd choose them over her. "Look at me," I said. She did. Those terrified, apologetic eyes that didn't belong on a 9-year-old. "I love you," I said. "Not them. Not their rules. Not their twisted version of family. You. Always." She burst into tears again, and I held her until she finally stopped shaking. But comforting her didn't cool my anger. It sharpened it. There's a special kind of rage reserved for people who hurt your child. Not a loud rage, a cold, calculated kind. I stood up, grabbed my keys, and kissed Chloe's forehead. "Where are you going?" she whispered. "To make sure this never happens again." She nodded like she understood in her bones. I drove straight to the police station. On the way, I practiced my voice. Neutral, steady, unshakable, because if I broke down even once, they might mistake me for emotional instead of furious. Inside, I explained everything. The officer's expression went from polite to horrified in under 30 seconds. "Wait, your daughter was told to confess?" he asked. "Told, coached, threatened, manipulated. Pick your verb." He blinked. "I'm going to need you to write that down." So I did. I wrote down every detail Chloe had whispered in the car, every word Patricia said, every lie, every threat, every ounce of pressure. I wrote until my hand cramped. When I finished, he said, "We'll open a report for coercion of a minor." Coercion of a minor. Hearing it out loud almost made me dizzy. "Will this help Chloe?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "It absolutely will." And for the first time that day, I breathed. Next, I drove back to the school. This time, I didn't wait politely in the office. I knocked on Ms. Park's classroom door and asked the principal to join us. The moment they saw the police report in my hand, their expressions changed. "I'm so sorry," Ms. Park whispered. "We would never have suspended her if we knew," the principal started. "That's why I'm here," I said. "She didn't steal anything. She didn't do any of this willingly. She was coached, threatened, lied to." I handed them copies of the statement. "And she wrote that confession," I said, "because she was told she'd lose her grandparents' love if she didn't." Ms. Park covered her mouth. The principal sat down slowly. "We'll reopen the investigation," she said. "Good," I said. "Because you suspended the wrong child." I walked out before they could say anything else. Not dramatically, just deliberately. Silence is louder than shouting. I didn't even make it home before my phone started vibrating. First call, Derek. "Lauren, what the hell is this?" he barked. "My mother is in tears." "Good," I said. "She should be. You filed a police report? Over a kid's mistake? Over nothing?" "Your parents coerced a minor into confessing to a crime." "Oh my God," he groaned. "You're always so dramatic." I hung up. Next call, Patricia. Her voice was shrill. "You ungrateful little, how dare you go to the police? You're going to ruin Asher's future." "You almost ruined Chloe's. She was helping the family. She's 9. "Oh, please," she snapped. "She's tougher than she looks." I hung up again. Next call, Kendra. "You think you can prove anything?" she hissed. "You think anyone will believe you? Chloe confessed. In writing. Under duress. You can't prove that. You'd be surprised." I hung up a third time. 3 calls. 3 villains. And strangely, I felt calmer with each one, because their panic told me everything I needed to know. They weren't sorry. They weren't confused. They weren't mistaken. They were guilty and scared, exactly where they needed to be. I walked back into the house and found Chloe drawing quietly at the table, the tension gone from her shoulders for the first time all day. I kissed the top of her head. "You okay, baby?" She nodded, and something settled inside me. A resolve so solid it felt like steel. They wanted a war. They just forgot one thing. I don't lose when I'm fighting for my child. The next few days were strange, quiet, not peaceful, just recalibrating. Chloe stayed home with me while the school reviewed everything. She carried the suspension like a bruise, not visible, but painful every time she moved. I kept things simple. Ice cream, movies, walks, anything normal. One night she asked, "Do I have to see them again?" "No," I said. "You don't." It wasn't dramatic, just the truth. 2 days later, my mother arrived from out of state. She hugged Chloe like she was coming home from war. Chloe clung to her in a way that made something in my chest crack. After 10 minutes, my mother looked at me and said quietly, "You should have moved home years ago." "I wasn't allowed," I said. "Courts." She nodded. She didn't push. She didn't need to. While Chloe spent time with her, I drove to the school for the update they promised. The principal looked exhausted. Ms. Park looked embarrassed. They asked me to sit. Bad sign. Then told me what happened. They questioned Asher alone. They showed him the anonymous post that used a photo lifted from Ms. Park's iPad. A stupid, childish picture she would have deleted if she remembered it existed. Apparently, Asher giggled. That was all it took. The dam broke. He admitted stealing the iPad, admitted poking around in files, admitted posting the picture as a joke, admitted Patricia, Howard, and Kendra told Chloe to take the blame. The principal apologized, sincerely, but an apology doesn't fix what happened in that office, or the way Chloe looked at herself afterward. They overturned Chloe's suspension that day. Her record cleared. Everything reversed. Good, but not good enough. Next stop, Mr. Merrick's office. My lawyer. I sat across from him and handed over everything. The police report, Chloe's statement, the school findings, all of it. He read in silence, turning pages slowly. Then he put the file down. "You have grounds for emergency custody," he said. "Strong grounds." "Good," I said. We filed that afternoon. The judge didn't take long. Temporary sole custody granted. Chloe would stay with me until the final hearing. That night, the calls started. Patricia first. "You selfish brat! Do you know what you've done to Asher's future?" I hung up. Next came Kendra. "You can't prove anything. She confessed. You're trying to destroy us." Hung up. Then Derek. "You're blowing this out of proportion." "You weren't there," I said. "Like always." He sputtered something defensive. I hung up a third time. 2 weeks later, we were in court. Derek showed up in a too expensive suit that didn't match his face. He had the expression of someone who assumed this was all an inconvenience he'd be done with by lunchtime. His lawyer opened with, "My client wasn't even present during the incident." Mr. Merrick smiled, the polite kind that means trouble. "That's correct," he said. "He was not present. He is never present. He wins custody and then offloads the child to his parents, who manipulated a 9-year-old into confessing to a crime. That is the issue." Derek shifted in his seat. For once, he didn't have a smirk ready. We laid out everything. The police report, the school findings, the timeline, his complete lack of involvement in parenting. It didn't take an expert. It took 5 minutes for the judge to see exactly what he was. When it was over, the judge said, "Sole legal and physical custody to the mother. Father will have supervised visitation only." Supervised. That was it. That one word cracked open a door I'd been pounding on for years, because supervised visitation meant something simple. I could move. And I did. I filed the relocation notice. I packed the house. I loaded the car. 3 weeks later, Chloe and I were driving across state lines toward my hometown, the place I'd been trying to bring her since she was 4. When we got there, my mother was waiting outside, waving like we were arriving from a long trip instead of escaping a war zone. Chloe ran straight into her arms. That was the moment I knew we were done with the old life. As for Patricia, Howard, Kendra, and Derek, they spent years reminding me I didn't belong in their family. Turns out they were right. And now, they have exactly what they wanted. A life without us. We have one without them too, and ours is better. It's been a year. Life looks nothing like it used to. No drama, no anxiety, no waiting for the next blow. Just normal. I didn't realize how rare that was until we had it. Derek never used his supervised visitation. Not once. He disappeared from the schedule the same way he disappeared from parenting. Chloe stopped asking about him months ago. That used to hurt, but now it feels like peace. She isn't waiting for someone who never showed up. She's thriving. New school, new friends, new routines. My parents live 20 minutes away, and Chloe lights up around them. Amazing what real love can do. I got a new job too. Better hours, better pay, better everything. Turns out life gets lighter when nobody is dragging you down. Every so often, a friend from our old state sends me updates. Apparently, the fallout didn't stay quiet. Asher didn't settle after the iPad incident. More jokes, more boundary issues, more excuses from Kendra. Eventually, he was expelled. Not suspended. Expelled. And when he enrolled in a new school, parents there already knew. Stories travel fast when kids are involved. No one wants their child sitting next to the boy who stole a teacher's device and let another kid take the fall. Patricia and Howard didn't escape the consequences either. Their reputation took a dive. Invitations dried up. They were quietly asked to step back from groups they once bragged about. Parents didn't want them around their kids either. But the harshest fallout hit Kendra. At Asher's new school, people had already heard what happened. The other moms kept their distance. The looks were sharp. Last I heard, she avoids school events whenever she can. Meanwhile, Chloe comes home smiling now. That tells me everything I need to know. So tell me, did I go too far? Or not far enough? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more.